This one here says in Ecclesiastes 7:16, do not be over righteous, neither be over wise. Why destroy yourself? Do not be over wicked, and do not be a fool. Why die before your time? Can you explain at least the Isaiah passage about, okay.
Yeah, okay. Was that a quotation from the Isaiah passage there rather than just a question? Yeah,
they want you to explain the Isaiah passage about good people pass away, the godly often die before their time.
Yeah, they do. And this is an interesting point that for a couple of different reasons, there sometimes the godly die before their time because they get into ungodly things. And I've got examples that I've known in people in the ministry, people I've had under me in the fellowship that I believe the Lord, they were godly people. The Lord took home prematurely because they would not give up some sin in their life. 1 John chapter 5 talks about a sin that leads unto death. I think that can happen. Number two, you have to understand something else. In the Old Testament, it seemed prosperity meant a long life. And if you died early and you weren't rich, it was assumed that you were not following God. You were somehow not prosperous. What Isaiah is saying there is no, sometimes the good, they do die young for whatever reason. His ways are not our ways. In the same section there, Isaiah 55:8-9 says, his ways are not our ways, his thoughts are not our thoughts. As high as the heavens are above the earth, so are his ways higher than our ways, and his thoughts above our thoughts. And the psalmist wondered about that too. You remember, like, Lord, how come the wicked seem to live forever, when the good die? You ever wonder that? We seem, here's the old drunk guy down the street that everybody can't stand. The guy lives to be 98, and then, the wonderful people, get cut down in the prime of life. It's a difficult question, but there's a principle there that sometimes the good do die young. Why? We don't know. Two passages I really want you to know. The one I quoted, Isaiah 55:8-9, and also Romans 11:33 is one I think you all need to underline in your Bible, where it says his ways are past finding out. Sometimes God allows things like this to happen, even righteous, good people to be cut down in the prime of life, for whatever reason. And, just like you've seen in the old battles, where the guy gets shot, that's holding up the flag and somebody picks it up and runs with it. It's that sort of thing. When someone, meets the Lord at a premature death, many times God raises up people where someone feels the call on their life to pick up the banner and move forward. So we don't know this side of heaven why certain things happen. So the why questions are one we can't totally answer, but we do know this. God allows it to happen sometime, so someone else can stand forward, step up in the gap when normally they wouldn't have. And I think only in eternity we'll find out the why answer to that. Now, Ecclesiastes, remember that. It's written from under the sun. Solomon there now writing through divine inspiration, but a man with wisdom looking from a human level. And that's why he will make statements there that will actually be contradictory to other parts of Scripture. And that's why the book of Ecclesiastes is a favorite of the cultists, Jehovah's Witnesses, kooks, and like that, that'll quote out of context some of the things that were there. What's the difference between a dead dog, a dead human being? Who knows whether one goes up, their spirit, one goes up or one goes down? We don't know. Did we do that last year, by the way? Did I tell you guys about the spirit going up and down? Yeah, I did. Okay, didn't I? Well, did I or did I not last year? Did I?
I don't think you did.
About the, who knows whether, the spirit goes up or goes down with the dead person, where an animal's goes up and I didn't do that?
Oh, no, you did. Last week we were talking about animals. That was last Thursday. Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. Yeah.
I did?
Yeah.
I don't remember it last Thursday. No, I know. I didn't do it last Thursday. When I talk about the breath, where you can see the breath, did I do that last year?
I don't think you did that, no.
Okay. I was reading, and the only time I've ever seen it was the Berkeley version, and it said perhaps Solomon noticed about, how we know whether animals, when they die, they go down, they don't go to heaven, and humans have a divine nature. And he said he probably noticed when on a cold day, of course you don't ever have those here in Hawaii, you would notice this, but if you ever go to the mainland, they actually have cold days, where actually when the days are cold, you can see your breath. Now the next time you go on a cold day and watch the breath, notice something. And this is the truth, and I didn't, I read this in the footnote. I didn't know it's true, but it is true. Whenever we breathe on a cold day, our breath goes up. Animals, they all go down.
Oh,
now one goes up.
Huh.
And Solomon noticed this, and I remember reading that. Goes, is that true? So I've noticed it, and it's true. When we breathe out, we can see our breath. We go up. All animals go down. Interesting, isn't it? God may be saying we were made for all eternity. So interesting question.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's neat. I read that note. I thought, is this true? And then I watched it over the years. Yeah, it is true.
Okay, let's take another one from somebody. Anybody want to? Yeah, lay two. Yeah, I want to give lay two a chance.
Hi, Don.
Hi.
I've taught on this before, but I wanted to hear your take on it, and it's Romans chapter 2, verse 14. For when the Gentiles who do not have the law by nature do the things in the law, these, although not having the law, are a law unto themselves, who show that the work of the law written on their hearts, their conscience, that's the key word there, I guess, also bearing witness, and between themselves and their thoughts, accusing or excusing themselves in the day that God will judge the secrets of men by Jesus Christ according to my gospel. And the word that I wanted to just focus on there was conscience.
Yeah, the conscience, that part of us that understands that God gives us, that knows the distinction of right and wrong that we all have. The Gentiles, the non-Jews, wherever you go in the world, you will find, wherever we go, we find people who have laws. Every society is governed by laws. There's a conscience there. Wherever you go, you'll find a murder is something that's looked down upon, that's frowned upon. There's certain rules and regulations that God has given within the nature of human beings. So sort of a universal moral code, a generic moral code that most people hold. And Paul's saying even Gentiles, hold that. They understand, there's certain things you should do and should not do. Stealing is universally looked on as wrong, murder and the such like. And so what he's saying is there's that witness there in the heart that God has given. And here's the great thing about this. Because God has done that, that's kept humanity from running more rampant. Now, can you imagine what would happen if the human race were left without any moral basis whatsoever, without any conscience or guide? It's bad enough as it is right now, but what he's saying, it could be a lot worse. But God has given, there's a universal generic morality that people know to get along in society. Certain things you have to do. Your neighbor next door, you don't murder them, you don't kill them. That's frowned upon. You don't steal from them. You don't do things like that. So he's comparing, even the Gentiles know that. They have that law. Now, what's also interesting in that whole section there, he talks about the objective witness to its nature. Nature itself tells you that there's something bigger than you. The Gentiles have that witness. Not only the moral code that tells them, there's a right, there's a wrong, but there's a universe out there, like Francis Schaeffer said, it's not just a handful of pebbles thrown out there. There's a regulated universe where, there's order and precision in the universe, and then there is a moral code that even unbelievers, tribes, Gentiles, non-Jews have that tell us certain things are right, certain things are wrong. Well, where did that come from? Well, it came from the lawgiver, and that's why even if they sin apart from having the law, they know the difference between right and wrong that's instilled in them. And that's what basically the Bible has said. Even with our fallen nature, we know certain things are right and certain things are wrong. We were talking, was it yesterday, the day before on the radio, in the ancient world, there are no atheists. Atheism has to be educated, and you have to be educated to believe that God doesn't exist. In other words, when you get educated beyond your intelligence, then you can know that God doesn't exist. But until that time, people believe everywhere universally believe there was something bigger than them, that existed. It's only now where we're so smart we know all these things that God doesn't exist. That's tongue in cheek, by the way. The last. Okay. Next question.
This is interesting. Question/comment. Hawaii has many cultural traditions, many of which are embraced by local Oriental families, which are not based on actual real Christian Bible-based values. Some have idols passed on to second and third generations, etc. I'll list a few. 1, bond dancing to honor past ancestors, the Buddhists. 2, fireworks to chase bad spirits. 3, floating small boats with a light inside honoring family members and friends. Please comment on these practices of many in our state.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's not limited, obviously, here to Hawaii, but many cultures around the world have traditions. It's, and this is an interesting question because it's sort of like, this is the way we honor our, in some cultures, ancestor appreciation's elevated. It's very high. And some, they're afraid of the ancestors. They're afraid they'll come back and haunt them if they don't, treat them rightly. And so they have these traditions, and you mentioned a few of them here, and they're literally, around the world, some countries more than others, but you see them here with the variety of cultures in Hawaii. Okay, here's how you got to deal with that. When you get a situation like this, first of all, just like when I give you the illustration, in India, all these rituals they go through, I would ask the Indian people, now, you guys do this. How many of you actually believe something's going on here? And nobody raised their hand. Okay, why do you do it? We do it because we do it because we do it. All right. I think if that's the situation, it's not a big deal. It's a problem when you actually attach something to it. And that, I think, is where you got to draw the line. Because if you start thinking about it, there are traditions we have as Americans that we do. You kind of take them back to its beginning, and they have very much pagan roots, but no one believes this stuff anymore. For example, when you sneeze, what do you say? God bless your Gesundheit. What do you do with your hand? Cover your mouth. You know why? Why originally? So your soul wouldn't escape. That's why they did that. It had nothing to do with sanitation. They would cover their mouth because they believed when they opened the mouth, their soul would escape or a demon would come in. So when they said Gesundheit or good health to you, basically the mouth was covered by the hand, so either the soul wouldn't escape or a demon wouldn't jump in. Now, how many people, now that doesn't mean we should, not cover our mouth when we sneeze. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is originally that's where that custom came from. And there are many, many customs like that around the world. So I guess it depends on the particular one and what kind of credence you give to it. Is this something, a tradition that you do just out of, just because you do it, or is it something that you really put some stock in? If people think something's going on there, then you've got to, then I think that's where you start drawing the line. In other words, we're now going to go out and celebrate the life of our ancestor here by doing this, and by doing this, their spirit's going to join us here in this way, and I think that's where you draw the line. But if you're just doing this, and that's why I always ask, why do you do this? And just as an aside, the first time I was in, where was it? New Delhi, Bombay. I was walking around the streets one day. Actually, if you're a Westerner, all of a sudden you've got everybody and their brother wants to give you a tour, and of course their hands out at the end of that. But it was interesting. I walked down this one street. I've never seen it. You got a Roman Catholic church next to a Hindu temple. Then you've got a Jainism, a shrine there. You've got about 5 different ones on the same street, all like next to each other, like door number 1's here, door number 2's here, door number 3 there. And I actually saw a funeral where they actually they had a funeral pyre, and the guy was saying, "You want to see a Hindu funeral?" I said, "Well, yeah, I'm here." And actually they went through the ceremony, and they lit the guy, and the guy's sitting there, and they burned the body. I didn't stay for the whole thing, but they did that. And I was asking some of the questions, what exactly they believe, why they did that. And basically says, well, we just do it out of tradition. No one really believes this stuff here. And so I guess that's kind of almost kind of the answer I would give to something like that. Do you really believe something's going on? And when we talked to this one Hindu guy, he said 83% of the nation is Hindu. But he said my age, and he was probably 30, he says, most of us are atheists. We don't believe in anything. So I guess it depends on the situation there. But if it is bothersome, then you don't participate.
By the way, I was going to ask you, when we say hi and hello,
yes,
is that, do we say hello because they used to say hell is low and heaven is high?
I haven't heard that before, but it could very well be.
Yeah, no, I have heard that.
Hi means God, God be with you, that too. So yeah. Hi and hello.
Hi. They used to say heaven is high, hell is low, and then they shortened it hi, hello. Yeah. I don't know. That's...
He just made
I don't feel, no, I'm serious.
It sounds good. I don't know.
I don't feel bad now because you don't know, so, because I didn't know either.
Good. I haven't heard that one before. I have not heard that one.
Okay, Dave's got a question.
Okay. Yes.
You hear me? Okay.
Yeah, okay, Dave.
In Genesis 32, verse 24, where it says the Lord knocked Jacob's hip out of joint, what was the reason he did that?
What was the reason he did that? Remember what happened there in Genesis? Jacob wrestled all night with the angel of the Lord, right, or the man that he recognizes that. And again, we're not specifically told why he did it. So if we're not told why, we don't know. But here's what we surmise, okay? Jacob was a person who tried to do the right things in the wrong way. You ever notice that in his life? Here's a guy, please God, I'd rather do it myself. I'd do it my way. And he was... at the end of the day, he tried to do the right thing, but he did it in the wrong way, and it's a lesson for us. And so what the Lord did, from what I understand, not being, a medical person, but that one thing that the Lord did to him was probably a very painful and difficult injury he gave. So his whole life, every time he took a step from then on, he would be reminded of his wrestling with the Lord to be obedient to God. Now, there's a wonderful lesson in there for us, isn't there? We don't want to get to that point, do we? So we want to say, Lord, I give up before that time. But the fact was, remember, he's wrestling all night, literally, with this one that the Lord had sent. And if you get to that point, God has to, subdue you. And he subdued him in such a way where Jacob would never forget. So every single step Jacob took the rest of his life, he would remember that.